All right, so for me today I wanted to talk a little bit about definition of success. So this started when I moved out here, and I've been out here for about 2 years, just shy of 2 years now. So I'm going to start by just telling you my story about me moving out here. Everybody's got a story, and so we'll start with my story. So my story starts in Wisconsin. Listen to me for 1 minute, you'll know I'm from Wisconsin. So I have always had horses, and horsing around has always been a big part of my life. It actually comes from my father's side. His father used to be a rancher out in Oregon. I still have my grandpa's saddle. My aunt has it right now because I'm horseless currently. But I used to rodeo as a kid, loved hanging out with the horses. That was always a big part of my life. And my mom and dad, so they were both married before they married each other and had 2 children, got married to each other, had 2 more children, and there is a big gap between me and the rest of my siblings. So I basically grew up as an only child because there's 7 years between me and my closest aged brother. And there's about 15 years in me and the rest of the siblings. So we did not grow up in the same household styles. So typical baby of the family, had the horse, had the everything else. So that was me. My mom and dad went and were very involved in the horses. My dad was the announcer of the rodeos as a kid. My mom did the timekeeping. We did everything together. It was a great childhood that I had. And then one day, I got that phone call. And I got a phone call while I was living with my then boyfriend and now husband. And the phone call was from my dad, and my dad's got that really deep voice. And I answer the phone, and it says, "Hand the phone to Craig." And my mom had passed away. I was 19 years old, and it obviously, everybody knows it hits you hard when something like that happens, and it makes a big impact on your life. And my dad, he doesn't know how to make a daughter happy, right? He has no idea. So what does a dad do? He bought me a horse, because I was currently without a horse at that point in time. He's like, "Here, that should make you happy." And he said, "Let's go on a trip." And him and his then girlfriend and wife, he married a year later, Mary Jane, and myself and Dad, we went out to Colorado. We did some horsing around out in Colorado, and that was my first time being in the Rocky Mountains. And I'm like, this is awesome. So I have always been a big lover of being in the outdoors. So again, like I said, I've been with my husband now since 1991. So we've been together almost 30 years. We've been married just over 20 years. Always big advocates of being outside. We go to the boundary waters. We do the canoeing. I force him to go horseback riding, but that is definitely not his thing. But we're always doing the outdoor thing, and we happened to decide a couple years ago that we wanted to do a trip. And we did a trip to Yellowstone, and we did the Tetons, and this was in 2016. And it was, as everybody knows, the best trip ever. And we once again rekindled my love for the Rocky Mountains. And I decided, boy, this is the life. This has to happen for me. I remembered that I wanted to, at one point in time, live in the mountains. And I remembered this was really important to me in my younger years, and we need to make this happen. So like everybody knows, the mountains were calling, and I had to listen. So I had this fabulous idea. We talked about when we get older, we're gonna retire and come to the mountains. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not aging like the fine wine that's supposed to be. My knees are bad, I'm in PT, I've had 4 knee surgeries, he's had a couple knee surgeries. We're not aging the greatest. So if we want to come to Montana and enjoy the things that Montana has to offer, we better get our butts out here now. So I decided, let's start thinking about Operation Move to Montana. And again, I've been with Craig for 20 years. I know how to speak languages that the men can understand. So I waited for him to hate his job. He had a job that when he started this job, it was the perfect job. He got recruited, everything was great and wonderful, and then another company took it over, and it went very quickly. And he hated his job. So I just let him stew on how much he hated that job, and I started to plant a little bit of seeds here and there. And you know, honey, if we did move to Montana, you could hunt all the time. When I moved out here, I said, what week is that one week that we're not allowed to take vacation because that's when all the hunters go and do the hunting? And they all looked at me like I was the craziest person. Because in Wisconsin, that's Thanksgiving. That's their main week. That's the week they go hunting. And they're like, that's year round. We've got elk season. We've got this season, that season. I'm like, oh my goodness, Craig is gonna love this. So planted the seeds and said, this is what we need to do. We need to make this happen. And he agreed. I was shocked. So now I got my husband on board, which at that point in time, his parents weren't gonna be as excited about it. Craig is the baby of his family. There's 4 kids. He's the only one that's moved away from the hometown where they live. And I have encouraged us, we were living in Madison for about 25 years, and that was far enough away. So now I want to take their little baby and I want to move from Wisconsin to Montana. Well, that didn't sit well with Mom. Mom was not exactly excited about that. So we eventually talked him into it. Everything was okay. We made it happen. And we came out here in 2017, and we still weren't sure what we wanted. So we came out here that fall of 2017, flew into Missoula, and yeah, that wasn't for us. I like sunshine. It's hard to say that on a day like today, but seriously, we normally have some sunshine at some point in time. And when we moved out here, I had one person I knew, one person in this whole state that I knew, and she lived outside in Whitehall, and she worked at the hospital in Anaconda. And my husband works in the medical field, so I'm like, okay. And they actually did the same thing. And so I thought, let's check out that hospital and see what we think over there. I love Butte. I may be in the minority, but I love Butte, but I didn't want to live in Butte. We then drove over here and came over to Belgrade, or into Bozeman, and it was like, oh, we have arrived. We happened to hit that fall. We were here the day of the historical people being on Main Street, and everybody's walking up and down the street, drinking their beverages, talking about history and all this fun stuff, and I'm like, this is my home. This is where we belong. This is perfect. So we came back about 3 months later, and it was February, so this month, a couple years ago, 2 years ago. And he interviewed for a job at the hospital. I interviewed for a job. We both got job offers before we even left. We went and looked at a bunch of houses, and the pressure was starting to get a little tight because now we got the job offers. So we're looking at the houses, and in my head I had a number. I'm in the mortgage field. I had a number in my head that I wanted for a house. Yeah, that's not realistic out here. The number I had isn't even a fixer-upper out here. So we had to do some number changing, and me being in the mortgage field, I did a lot of number scrunching. We looked at a bunch of houses, didn't love any of them, and I was getting really, really frustrated. And my wonderful realtor, who's now moved away, she says, we got to look at this one house. This is going to be the house you want. And I'm like, frustrated as all get out. Why is this the house I want? She's like, just trust me. Well, my husband and I, we don't have children. Well, we do have children. We have 4-legged children, and we have 2 4-legged children. And the house that she wanted to show me was a door to the backyard in our bedroom. Well, that spoke my language. I don't even have to open my eyes to let my dogs out in the middle of the night. I can just open the door. It was perfect. So in a matter of 3 days of being out here, we got 2 job offers, put an offer in on a house that got accepted, and we had to get back and be back here to live in 30 days. My house wasn't even on the market yet, but being in the field of mortgages, and I at that time worked at a title company, everything was great and wonderful, so it all happened perfect. Everything fell into place. So you might think at that point I rode a unicorn over here and I was pooping out rainbows and everything was fabulous, until it wasn't. So first thing first, I came out about 2 weeks before my husband did. And I'm super diligent. I did all my homework. I found this wonderful VRBO for a month, found it on Craigslist. And I get out here and I call them, and my nephew rode with me. And I call him and I say, hey, I'm here. I'm ready to move into this place. We're gonna live here for 1 month until our house closes. We're on our way. We wait, and we wait, and we wait. And no one shows up. Well, that's weird. At this point, I still think everything's fine and dandy because I'm still riding my unicorn, right? So I call him again. I'm like, hey, still here. I got distracted. We're on our way. And we wait, and we wait, and they don't show up. I try one more time because now I'm starting to get a little upset, just a little. Because again, this is my dream. Everything's going to be great. And I call him one more time. My number's blocked. What the heck? Call him off my nephew. And they're like, we're on our way. I now know I'm scammed. I put $3,000 down on a place for a month, and my first stop was the police station. And we did a police report because we got scammed. So now I'm out $3,000. I'm out here with my nephew who's flying back the next day because he just came out here to drive with me, my 2 dogs, and I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do. So meanwhile, my husband's home and I got everything all figured out for the moving truck. I got a quote of about $4,500 and we're gonna get, everything's gonna be great. He literally, after the truck is loaded, is hitting the road and he's coming out here. He's by himself. He gets the truck all loaded, everything's great and wonderful, and they hand him a bill for $12,600. Oh my gosh, the truck is loaded, he has to leave, we have to pay that bill. So not everything comes in his perfectly planned, but that's part of what makes me me, and that's part of what makes people who are successful overcoming those challenges that come about us. Things happen. I could have buried my head in the sand, because let me tell you, it was tempting. But I chose to not. And those are decisions we make when we're deciding these are the things that we really want. We make choices on how to handle those things that come our way. So they say there's 3 ways successful people remain optimistic. And what did you call me? A perpetual optimist.
What did I say? Perpetual optimist. Thank you.
So there you go. That's who I am. So that is what I did. 3 things that people do: they elevate their thinking, they'd rather grow than be right, and they give what they want to receive. If anybody follows me on LinkedIn, just about everything I always do, I hashtag give good, get good, because I do believe that. Yeah, nonsense happens, bad things happen. Mom passes away when you're a teenager, bad things happen. But how you handle those things is what makes you the person you are today. Give good, get good back. I definitely wanted to be right. I definitely did all my research. I checked out that company for the VRBO. I did Better Business Bureau. They were on it. Everything was great. The police station said this one's hit a few. So I think I lived here about a month and I saw a news report of that same company scamming a bunch of people that were moving here. So what do? Do I put my head in the sand or do I take the advice of these successful people? Well, I decided to take this advice and I'm gonna keep going. Everything's gonna be great. Because what else? What other choice do you have? So I have lived here now almost 2 years, and last fall was the first time we decided to go home. Well, this is home. First time we decided to go back to Wisconsin. So we load up our car. We did a rental car. We load up the car, we get the 2 dogs, and we head out to Wisconsin, and it's awesome. I got to see family, I got to see friends. It was Thanksgiving. It wasn't awesome driving back in the winter, but whatever, that's a whole nother story. Never doing that trip again. But I get there and I hang out with my friends. I actually got to go to the headquarters of where I work, and I work at Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation, so I got to go to headquarters. It was kind of funny because I'm from Madison. That's where the headquarters of the company I now work for, but I've only worked there for about 6 months. So while the person was taking me, Mary's who's in the picture here, while she was taking me on a tour of our headquarters, I was introducing her to more people than she was introducing me to, because we all work together. So it's kind of funny how that works. But I hung out with my friend Teresa, and Teresa says something to me that kind of stuck in my head and where this all started. Teresa says to me, you know, someday I really hope to pull a Kris. Pull a Kris? What the heck does that mean? I mean, I don't know, my bar's pretty low. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? You need to tell me more. What does that mean, pull a Kris? And Teresa and her husband were our next door neighbors. We did everything. They're also outdoor people. We did everything together. We did camping with them. We hung out with them all the time. And she says she wants to live in Utah. And she would someday love to be able to talk Scott into moving out to Utah. So for her, pulling a Kris meant going and doing her dreams of living somewhere that was more suitable for her styles. But she said something after that, and she's like, you know, I really want to be as successful as you. Successful as me? I'm not successful. Since I've moved out here, I've eaten more peanut butter and jelly sandwiches than I did as a kid because I can't afford to go buy lunch every time. So I pack my lunches, and it's a PB&J and maybe a beverage or 2 that comes from Madison Brewing. But to me, successful meant you had to make money, right? Doesn't success mean making lots of money? Well, I then went out on social media and I asked a bunch of my friends, what does successful mean to you? And not a single answer says making a lot of money. What does successful mean to anyone here? I'm just gonna ask, who wants to give me an answer what successful means?
Freedom.
Freedom, that's a huge one. What else? Diane? Happiness.
Having the ability to do the things you want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. What was it? That's interesting you say that. That's one of my friends said up there. Of course, when I'm trying to read it, I can't figure out which one it is. But one of my friends said, having someone else compliment me about my kids. That to her was a huge success for her. Having her kids be her spokesman for her style. That was big for her. I didn't know. I had no idea because in my head all this time, I was thinking it meant making a lot of money. Last month when I was here presenting, or when I was here attending, I asked someone, if they wanted to let me know, and someone left me a note. And it says, success is using your whole self. Using or developing your aptitudes, talents, and skills. That speaks volumes to me because I feel the job that I have right now gives me the freedom to do things like this. I'm in marketing now. I haven't been in marketing. It was my very first degree when I was 18. I was marketing, but I'd always gone down the safe road. And since moving out here, I get to get out of my comfort zone and do the things, developing my aptitudes, talents, and skills. And that's what I'm doing at the Fairway Mortgage now. So again, success, I thought, meant making lots of money. Since then, I've learned and done a lot of research on it, and that's not the case. What number do you think successful people make for income? Just give me a couple dollar amounts. $70,000? Okay. What does anybody else think? One more. I don't know, but now I really want to know. Okay. So, $95,000 for your household income gives you life satisfaction. Life satisfaction, that sounds great and wonderful, right? Well, they're also saying 60 to 75,000, which is the number we talked about over here, gives you emotional well-being, gives you the feeling of feeling successful. The articles that I found, multiple of them throughout this research, shows once you start to hit that 125 and more mark, you are working so hard to maintain that income that you don't have the freedom to do the things that make you happy. So think about that. If success is all about money, are you happy? And if we just got done saying success is being happy and having freedom, it doesn't correlate, it doesn't line up with money. So I found this really interesting. And then it got me thinking, okay, I know 3 people that come to my mind when I think about success. So I'm going to talk about these 3 people today. 2 of them are from here, and 1 of them is back in the Midwest. I asked all 3 of them the same group of questions. All 3 of them have very different answers. So first of all, my main question, first question I asked all of them, before, I forgot I threw this slide in yesterday because it stood out to me. If you haven't read this book, read this book, Relentless Optimism, How a Commitment to Positive Thinking Changes Everything. I read this a little while ago, and I had actually forgotten all about it, but as I was doing the research on this, I found it again and went, I love that. The people who succeed aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who learn how to respond to failure with optimism. So I asked the 3 people that I interviewed here, on a scale of 1 to 10, how optimistic are you? So not how optimistic do people think you are, how optimistic do you as an individual feel you are? The first person gave me 7.5. I thought that was a pretty good number. I thought it would be higher, but it's a pretty darn good number. I would say that's probably my number, to be honest with you. Then the second person, 7.5. Okay, now I think we got a trend here. Then I get to my third person, and I asked my third person, and she gave me 8.5. That's more of what I would think an optimistic person would have. So the other ones are also real people, realistic people, so they didn't want to go too high, but I thought those were good numbers. So let's talk about the people that I met. Does anybody know Amber? Yep. Okay, Amber's a good friend of mine. I got this shirt from Apricot Lane. Amber messages me when shirts come in, and she's like, this shirt's for you, you gotta come and get it. And she's almost 100% right. So whenever she texts me or messages me to come get a shirt, I'm right there to go get the shirt. So Amber, if you know a little bit about Amber, she has 2 beautiful children. There's her 2 children right there. She's married. And so I asked her a bunch of questions. I asked her about her business. I asked her about her moving out here. And I said, what brought you to Montana? Because she's not originally from Montana. And she said, a boy. So she followed a boy out here. And they didn't get married right away. They had one child at that time, their daughter. But they didn't get married right away. Eventually they got married. But she's been with him as long as I've been with Craig. That's pretty cool. So I asked her a bunch of questions. So what do you do to feel successful? What do you do for, if you don't know, Apricot Lane is a wonderful store in the mall. It was in the mall, someone else owned it, it got shut down. And Amber said at that point, she had had a few different careers. She had worked for Murdoch's, she had done accounting. She was waiting for that position that spoke to her. She is a very strong faith person. And she needed something that really spoke to her. And Apricot Lane spoke to her because, this I did not know, they have a mentorship program for their employees there. So when the girls start working there, or the cashiers start working there, she mentors them for their next step. Obviously, when you're 18, you're not going to work at the same position at a mall your entire life, but who knows what you're going to do. That's what she does, is she mentors them to get them to move to where their next goals are. So I asked her again, a couple things that make you stand out. What are important things to you to be successful? She is a big list person. Anybody else a big list person? Why do you think we're big list people? Why are you a big list person?
Because it keeps me on track and I never forget the thing that I wanted to do.
Yeah, of course. I'm a huge list person. The other reason I'm a list person, I love crossing things off. I feel accomplished when I can cross something off on my list. Another thing that she said, and this really spoke to me, because I'm 40-something. Now, in my younger years, I got riled up over everything. Everything was huge. Everything was really, really important. But she said something that really made sense. It's knowing when to let things roll off your back and when to stand up for something. Because there's a time and place. And the next thing she said is, you have to have perspective. Is that thing going to be important to you in a week? Is that thing going to be important to you in a month? And if the answer is yes, that's when you stand up for it. If it's no, then it's something you just let roll off your back. So I said to her too, how do you stay positive? What are the things that make you stay positive to be in the person and the personalities that you have? And for her, she said she does mini trips. I love this one. She said she took a trip to San Diego. Airline tickets were like under $100 to go to San Diego. She's got family there. She's like, it was a really inexpensive, like regenerate, hit the reset button kind of thing. So that's something that's really important to her. She also does pray. So she centers herself through meditation and prayer. What are the things that define you, I asked. She said, I want to be the #1 mom. I want to be the #1 wife. And I want to be the #1 daughter to my parents. That's who Amber is. So, next thing I did is I asked another person, who knows Krista? Okay, I thought I knew Krista, but after that interview, I really know Krista, and she's more awesome than I thought. So if you aren't sure of who Krista is, she owns Revive Salon. Revive Salon, it's a salon. It says right the name, right? So clearly she does hair. Now, she owns a very successful salon and doesn't do hair. Wait, what? So Krista came here. She also transferred over here. She's been here for, I think she said around 10 years now. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember for sure off the top of my head. But when she came over here, she does spray tans. And she would go to the salons, and the salons would hire her to do the spray tans for people because no one really did that around here. And then talking with the girls that worked at the salons, she overheard so much cattiness, and she just didn't understand, as women, we need to support each other. Why are we doing these things to be unkind to each other? Why are we not helping and supporting each other and helping those people to grow? Well, she decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open a salon. And I'm going to be a manager of a salon, and I'm going to have the best life for those girls that work with me. because that's important to her. It's important to her to be around those people that bring good energy. It's a matter of deciding who is going to be good and bring you to be the better person you can be. So when she talked about this, I have my friend Jenny Haas is who does my hair. Unless you don't like my hair, then she doesn't, but I do, so that's all that matters. But what she talked about is her salon and in her personal life, she's got core values that include community, collaboration over competition. Yes, you're in competition, and yes, you want all the people to come to you to do their hair, but you know what? If you can't, and that person has to get a haircut, it's okay to say, you know what, my coworker can help you out with that. And I work in an environment that is very team-oriented right now. I've also worked in an environment that's not team-oriented, because all of my loan officers that I work with, they all have the same goals, mortgages. The girls at the salon, all have the same goals, making the money by having the clients. But when you support each other, more people are gonna wanna be in that environment. I don't know about you, but I love going over there to get my hair done because it's just a positive environment. Everybody likes each other. And I don't feel like they're faking it. And if they are, they're doing a great job of it. And you can only fake it so many times, and I go there often. The other thing that she said that really stood out is her happiness is her own. Like I said, if you like my hair, great. If you don't, I don't care, because I love it. It's my own. It's my happiness. That's what she said. She does not depend on others to provide her happiness. How many times do we ask people, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? Who cares? Why do we have to care about that? Our happiness needs to be our internal happiness. And if we aren't going to be happy ourselves, we can't expect those around us to be happy. My shoes, they make me happy today. I love my shoes, so that's bringing me some internal happiness and external because they're fun. Another thing we talked about is your center of influence. I've had people in my life that I've had to cut out of my life. I've had to unfriend them. They bring too much negativity. Honestly, one is my sister at one point in time. She's had a hard life. I have a sister who's had worse things happen than I can ever imagine. And she's justified in it, but I couldn't be a part of all the negativity that was around her. And I had to back away from it. Finding that center of influence that brings you good energy will help you give good, get good. Also, with Krista, she is a big believer. She has her strong faith. And for her, like me, husband, best friend. That's who my best friend is my husband. That is hers. And for her, if you have someone who says something negative, she'll bring that person over and say, let's have a talk about it. Don't go down the road and be a negative person to spread the rumors. If you're going to walk the talk, be involved, connect with your employees, get to know them. She has a lot of different group events that she does too, so that's something that she does for her staff to be successful. So the third person, this is Officer Adam. And a lot of times when we say successful people, millennials do not come to mind. This is not your typical millennial. This is Adam Phillips. He's also my nephew, so I might be a little proud of him. He's the one who rode out here with me. But Officer Adam, his parents, my brother, and now ex-sister-in-law, they were married. They got divorced when Adam was 11. Adam decided at that point in time, a dream of his is to be a police officer. That was his goal. He was going to be a police officer. Well, he ended up having those tests that we all have, and the tests that you get in school, they all said, you have learning disabilities, kiddo. You're not going to be a police officer. You've got too many issues. You're never going to go to school for college, so you may as well stop it. Well, I'm a Phillips. You don't tell us we can't do something. That's not how it works for us. And if that's your motivation, just tell us something we can't do, and darn, we're going to climb that mountain, and we're going to get into what we need to do. So Adam got really involved in track, and he got really involved in cross country, and that stinker made it to state. He only did it for 2 years. He made it to state every time he did it. And that got colleges looking at him. And when colleges started to look at him, he got a 4-year scholarship to go to school. Oh, that should be perfect. Everything should be great and wonderful again. Now he can ride his unicorn. Well, college, you still got to get good grades. And he still has all these struggles with learning. And it was very difficult for him. And every single day that poor kid wanted to quit. And his sophomore year, he got hurt, lost his scholarship. Okay, Adam too could stick his head in the sand, but that's not how our Phillips dynamic works. He didn't want to stick his head in the sand. He wanted to do more. He wanted to be successful. He was going to be a police officer. So he was at school that day, and a recruiter came up to him from the military and said, "Hey kiddo, what do you think about this idea?" He'd always wanted to be in the military. I have another nephew who's in the military. So Adam says, "You know what, let's talk about that." Well, I surprised Adam last summer and showed up to his graduation, and he was going to join the Guards. And the way that kiddo was so excited, when we got there, we were looking for him in the lineup of kids, he was the kid in the front. He was the main kid. He planned to stay under the radar and keep the bar low, but it didn't happen because of his legs. He's still faster, even though he got hurt, he's still faster than the average child. So military was the route for him. They said, "We'll pay for your school, but you got to get these grades." So he did. That kiddo went 5 years to college, and he graduated this past December. Then he wanted to become this police officer, right? So they hired him. He's been hired as of January this year, and he's now a police officer in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So I asked him the same questions. I said, "What are you? How does this drive work for you?" Because I know for me what's motivating, but I wanted to know what was motivating for him. And I knew the story of him growing up on this side, but not on the inside. So I really wanted to get to know and dive into it. So I said, "What are you?" And he said, "I'm more of a realist than necessarily an optimistic." However, he is the one who said he's an 8.5. So are you really? Come on, Adam. But he said he's very self-motivated. And I would say that was me when I rodeoed. I didn't have anyone I competed against but myself. And every time I wanted to do better than myself. So I too am that self-motivated. So we clearly get that from each other in our bloodlines. Very stubborn. Again, don't tell us not to do something, we're going to do it. He got that athletic scholarship even though those roller coasters were going through. Another thing I asked him, how does he stay positive? He knows who to go to. Center of influence, circle of influence, there's all kinds of different ways we call the same thing. But surrounding ourselves with people that you know are going to support you and are going to help you reach those goals that you have. So he knows if he has money questions, he contacts me. I talk to Adam at least once a week. If he needs motherly support, his mom is right there. If he needs a kick in the ass, that's where my brother comes in. We all know who you need to go to for those certain things that support you. That's, he said, one of the things that keeps him going. You don't go to the same person, and you don't want a yes person. You want that real person that's going to help you succeed. He also says he likes to mix things up and avoiding ruts. Maybe that was me moving out here. You know, when I moved out here, I started working in the very safe job that I'd always had all my life. It wasn't until about 6 months ago that I switched over to where I'm at right now, and that's the one that gives me the challenge. Getting out and avoiding ruts, that's what he does. So for Adam, I'm kind of interested to see what's next. So he's always up to something, so we'll see where this chapter takes him. So you may listen to this and go, okay, these are great and wonderful things. Where do I start? How do I even know where to start to become successful? So let me ask you this question. Now raise a hand. How many of you this morning, after you got up, made your bed? Okay. Studies show making your bed is the first way to start being successful in your day. It's the first thing. I had no idea. I was watching something on Netflix, being lazy, and one of the lines in the TV show I was watching was, "Oh, studies show it," and I'm like, please, this is a line. Well, then I started doing studies, and studies show making your bed in the morning is the first move you can make every single day to be successful. Yes, it can change your life. So if you haven't read the book, The Power of Habit, Why We Do What We Do in Life, in Business, I highly encourage you to do it. That's one that they talk about, the power of making your bed. It's that sense of accomplishment from when you start your day and you can go from there and make good decisions. It's kind of like when you are in the morning and let's see, you've got a donut there or you've got a banana. And making good decisions throughout the day. Are you going to go to that donut or are you going to go to that banana? I'm going to probably go to the banana, but you know what? Depending on my day, I may go to that donut and I'm not going to feel bad about it because I choose my happiness. So you get to make the choices that are best for you. So in in conclusion, I want to talk about myself one more time. My tips for being successful. These are my family right there. That's my husband. Before we moved to Montana, to take pictures of my husband and I had to pinch his little behind to get him to smile. Now, I have every single picture of my husband and I with him smiling. We are both in that state of happiness since we've moved out here. My mom used to say this, and most of these are my mom's quotes actually. Never take yourself too seriously. I was taking that picture. Rachel Krug is the photographer that worked with us taking the pictures. And I'm like, my eyes are never open because I'm smiling too hard when I smile for pictures. Like I just want my eyes to be open. I did that and she snapped it. And that's the funniest picture I've ever seen. Don't take yourself too seriously. That helps to take the edge off to be successful. My mom used to always say it's better to have laugh lines than worry words. I like that little one too. And I'm one who chooses memories. Make memories. Don't worry about the things that you need to buy. Make those memories. That's going to make you feel better about yourself. And then the last one, don't sweat the small stuff. And it's all small stuff. So even if you travel across the country and change up your life and you have all these bad things, it's your choice. You get to choose. Do you choose to put your head in the sand, or do you choose to be an optimistic person and figure out how you're going to go on to the next day? So with that, thank you everyone. If anybody has any questions, I can answer any questions, but thank you everyone for being here.